So I started with the regular method. So I started doing the videos and I followed along in the book, and I figured the first chapter shouldn't be too difficult. It was like income statements and balance sheet. And I figured I know income statement, I know balance sheet. But then I started doing the MCQs and I was thinking, maybe I don't know the income statement and the balance sheet. And then I looked at the simulation and I was sure I did not know the income statement and the balance sheet. So I was like, this is not good.
Welcome back to another episode of the CPA exam experience from SuperfastCPA. I'm Nate, and in today's interview, you're going to hear me talk with Viktoria. So in Viktoria's story, she has a very common element where, she worked in financial accounting. She was going to start with FAR, and in her review course, the first few lessons were balance sheet accounts and income statements, and she thought, okay, great, I know balance sheets, I know income statements. And she starts going through the lessons, and she actually found it pretty confusing. And so that's what I mean when I say her story has a familiar element, where even if you have experience directly in the thing that you're about to study in the CPA exams, and really the questions and the simulations, they're just very specific. It's a specific type of thing. So the other way that this manifests a lot is take someone who's worked in auditing for 4 or 5 years, sometimes even longer, but then they really struggle with the audit exam. And that is just because no matter what your background is, you basically have to go through this process of learning the CPA exam material in the context of CPA exam questions and simulations. And, if you've been watching any of our videos or podcasts or any of our stuff, you know that that's our main focus. It just makes sense to spend 80% of your time directly doing what you'll be doing on test day instead of confusing yourself with all the video lectures and all the chapters, because that's one context, and then the exam day context of MCQs and sims is still very different from even the textbook context that gets presented in your review course. The video lectures and the chapters obviously have their place, and we won't get into the whole study process here, but in Viktoria's interview, you will just hear her describe those two lenses with which to view the study process, really trying to learn everything conceptually first and then going to the questions and how confusing that can be, and then the benefits of just going straight into the questions and simulations and learning the material that way. So before we get into the interview with Viktoria, I just want to mention our free CPA study training webinars. So as you'll hear in Viktoria's interview, she actually found us through our app first because she was just looking for something supplemental in the App Store and found our app. And from the app, ended up watching one of these free training webinars. And that's where some of those ideas that I just mentioned clicked for her. So these free webinars, it's a 1-hour webinar where we walk through the 6 key ingredients to passing the CPA exams quickly and efficiently. And there's 6 key elements or study strategies that when all 6 are present in your daily and weekly study process, it's honestly hard to go wrong when you're doing those 6 things correctly. So these 1-hour training webinars, it's 1 hour that can literally save you months and months of time and frustration. So if you've never watched one of those, or you're wondering where to start with SuperfastCPA or the CPA exams in general, that is the best place to start. So the link to those will be down in the description of this YouTube video or the podcast episode if you're just listening to the podcast version of this. So with that out of the way, let's get into the interview with Viktoria.
I'm in California, Southern California. Yeah, we're getting a ton of snow right now. Yeah, I'm in the mountains, and I don't know if you saw the news, but there is this big storm that's coming through, so we have feet of snow out there. Okay. Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah. We do get snow. I mean, there is a snow. I mean, Big Bear area. I don't know if you're familiar with the mountains. Yeah, so there are ski resorts in here, but this they're saying, it's like record what's going to happen in the next couple of days. So whenever you send the email, if I'm available, I was thinking, yeah, I'm available, but if the internet goes out or the power goes out, you know. So far so good. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. No, I don't think so. I'm good. Mm-hmm. So I knew last year that I have my credits. I was pretty sure I had my credits, but I wasn't sure. I knew there was a time limit on once you start how soon you have to finish with the exam, but I wasn't certain when that time would start, like whether when I submit my credits or whether I start taking the exams. So just to be on a safe side, I ordered Becker and I decided I'm going to start studying for it in the FAR section. And when I get to halfway, I am going to submit my credits and my application. So I started with the regular method. So I started doing the videos and I followed along in the book, and I figured the first chapter shouldn't be too difficult. It was like income statements and balance sheet. And I figured I know income statement, I know balance sheet. But then I started doing the MCQs and I was thinking, maybe I don't know the income statement and the balance sheet. And then I looked at the simulation and I was sure I did not know the income statement and the balance sheet. So I was like, this is not good. And so that's when it dawned on me because I was calculating and I'm thinking, just to get through FAR, like how I thought I would get through FAR, it's like, it's going to take me a year. And I was thinking, should I quit my job or what the heck shall I do? Because I don't have a year just for one. So, but I figured I'm just going to buckle down and, keep going. And so I think I did maybe a couple of, not modules, chapters that way. And I got pretty tired. And one day I was just searching the App Store because I thought I was looking for something more like on a Cliff Notes section, like give me something that's condensed, give me something that, and I thought Becker would have something like that. Give me something that, I can do from the couch, like on my phone. So I went to the App Store and in the search, I just put in CPA and your app popped up. So I downloaded that app, and once you open it up, if I remember well, even before you sign up, it lets you use it to a certain degree, like kind of just to check it out, what it's like. So that's what I was doing. And I thought, okay, that's pretty good. But every time when I finished, it would pop up with that information that, hey, do you want to sign up for our 1 hour thing? So I ignored that for a while. And then eventually one evening, I'm like, because it popped up again and it said that in the next hour it's going to start. And I'm like, okay. And I really didn't think it was going to be live. I just thought, whatever, I'm cooking dinner, so may as well just listen to this, thing. And then it would, in the email, it said, it's live. You have to type in your name. So I had to abandon everything I was doing at the time because I actually had to sit down. So, and I took some notes and then I got I think it's the basic, you had 2 packages, I think. So I got the basic one. And honestly, I just started implementing what you were saying in that video or that 1 hour lecture. And at first it's tough because going to the MCQs before you actually read the lecture, it sounds silly. because you don't know the answer, or most likely you're not going to know the answer. And I think for some of us who are more high achievers and don't want to make a mistake, that sucks, seeing that, you only got 50% or less right. But once you get into it, you can actually learn a ton just from the MCQs. Well, that was a game changer. It's a different, yeah, yes. Yeah, totally. I mean, it's just, and the very beginning, before I got your program, I was, going through just Becker and looking at those MCs and even some of those simulation. It's just made me mad because it felt like that instead of trying to test what I know, it felt like that they're trying to trick me into something, to trip up. And those little hidden things are just so well put that yes, most likely you're going to trip, so so and it's really is learning how to take the test and how to read these questions, because for the most part I think that's what it is, and I think they probably call it critical thinking or whatever it is nowadays, but it really is to interpret those questions correctly, because once you do, it makes a lot of sense. But when you're not used to reading something like that, it's difficult. Yes, I mean, especially the morning part, because as everybody else, probably I sat down after work and after dinner and I was already exhausted. So thinking that I watched the video and I did something, it made me feel better because it felt like I studied, but it didn't do anything. I mean, the next day when I woke up to do the MCQs, I couldn't do them. That's not going to help. It was like watching those videos was almost just making myself feel better that I did something today. But really isolating that time in the morning and just getting it out of the way and getting it done is just made a whole lot of sense. I'm like, yeah. And then in the evening, you're done. You don't have to do anything. Yeah. Hmm. Right. No. I, yes. Yes. Back to the video lectures. I watched later on, I want to say a couple on Becker, because once I got into some kind of area that I tried to do a couple of times, with the MCQ, and it just didn't make sense, then I would go into Becker and research, I mean, find that area in the lecture and just listen to it. Well, you can see from the first couple of minutes if the guy's gonna actually explain it okay, or if it's just a waste of your time. But I do have to say there was one where he broke down that section so well that it's just clicked, and from that point on, I knew what I was doing. So I think Becker has good stuff in it if you know how to use it, but it's, well, I didn't use it the way they wanted me to use it, to go through section by section. But I think it has a lot of tools, and you can just pick and choose, what you want for yourself, and then make it work for you rather than just, going through the whole thing. Correct. Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. 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 Right. And I wish it was half hour. I mean, honestly, if it was half hour, I probably would watch it. But when I go into these individual chapters and I open up because I'm curious, and it tells me an hour, and I'm like, I don't have an hour just to listen to something. Yeah, if it would be like half an hour, I probably maybe would be tempted, because whatever, I probably could have half an hour in the evening, just to reiterate something, but not an hour. Or sometimes it's over an hour. Like, it's not worth it. So yeah, yeah, no. And sorry, as I found out, I mean, and they're so right. I watched some of your other these interviews, but it depends who gives the lecture also in Becker, and there are better and not so good ones. And there is one guy who just reads the text, and really, that's not teaching. But I heard the same thing from other people too. So that is really wasting my time. I mean, if there is a calculation and I don't understand it from the MCQs and I can't figure it out, and if there is somebody who's gonna like break it down for me, yeah, I'll listen to you for like 10-15 minutes. That's fine. But just to read the chapter, I mean, I can read, so good. So it's like, yeah, yeah. Mhm. No, no, I was very lucky. I found you very early on. I mean, it was, as I said, I was in the first module in the first couple of chapters, I think, when I came across your app. So no, I didn't even try. So I just started with the, yep. Hmm. I would say a few weeks, because I was going much faster. So I was started picking up. And I mean, I don't know what you say in the pro videos because I didn't have that, but I was concerned about the simulations because I didn't know what to do with the simulations. So that's why I was listening to some of your other interviews. I wanted to see what other people were doing with the simulations. And I didn't get too much of a tip out of it. So I just figured I'm going to do my own thing. So I didn't touch simulations till towards the end. So I wanted to make sure that I do the MCQs and I get consistently a high percentage on all my MCQs. And once I was getting really high ones, especially on the review ones, then towards the so I finished all the MCQs first, and I kept retesting, and all of them came up, 90+%. So that's when I started doing the simulations, and I would even skip days in the morning where I didn't do the reviews because I felt pretty comfortable with the MCQs. So all I did was I just chose for simulations instead of any MCQs, and started reviewing the simulations. And I saw one interview where somebody said that they didn't even touch simulations. That's not me. I'm very glad I touched simulations, because it puts a different spin on the same concept. So you might think again that you know the income statement because of the MCQs are coming in correctly, but you get an income statement simulation and somehow they just do it differently. So I don't think I could have done the simulations without practicing. Mhm. Right. Right. Yeah. Right. Hmm. Yeah. Right. Right. And I think I learned in, again, one of your videos about like try to do an average, one question per minute. So I was timing myself on that one just to be in a ballpark, because some of them is going to go much faster, especially if there are no computation involved, I mean, but some of them could be more involved. So, but I think a minute is a good indicator. So, oh yeah, I mean, reg. I just took reg end of January, I think. Yeah, and I was done with the MCQs in an hour, so that was fast. And I was out of that testing center. I had like an hour and a half left, so when I walked out, so I was like, I'm done. So, yeah, yeah. So I was like, that's when I got your email. How many I passed, and I haven't gotten back reg yet. So I was like, I passed one, but I was thinking I'm not going to count this one because I'm not going to jinx it. Like I either came out too early because I didn't know, or I came out too early because I did know. But I felt good about the Sims for sure. I mean, when I had to think about it, what I did well, I felt like the Sims were good. So the MCQs, I felt for MCQs that they went better. This one, especially with those business law thing, wasn't my favorite section. So I was like, I don't know. So, but yeah, I got a good percentage. So now I'm studying for BEC. I don't know. Every time when I start on a new one, I feel like it's not my favorite. So I feel like this is not my favorite. So it takes I don't know. It takes an extra umph in the morning to get up for BEC. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. 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 I wanted to start with FAR because it sounded like that was the most difficult. So I wanted to get that out of the way first. And I also heard at the end of last year that, the whole CPA exam is going to be changing in 2024. I'm like, I don't want to deal with that. So I want to get it out of the way this year. This format has been tested. It's been done for years. So I don't want to be the guinea pig, next year if I don't have to be. So, so, so like, let's get it out of the way. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm shooting for summer. Mhm. So for FAR, I studied longer than what you generally suggest, and I did longer for Rec 2 because I just want to feel comfortable. I probably could have passed sooner, or I mean, could have gone sooner and passed, but I need that feeling inside that I'm comfortable with it. So I also took the 2 weeks off after taking FAR, or maybe it was three, to find out the score because I just didn't want to jinx it again. So I waited. So I would say it was about 10 weeks for reg. Um, but I could have been longer because I took vacation, so in between. And I did take my books with me, and I was thinking that I am going to do something, but that didn't really work out. So there were some gaps in there, but by that time I already knew from FAR that to me, just taking gaps here and there, it's not going to affect me that much because I did that with FAR too, and it was fine. And again, I listened to some of your videos and some of the other people, what they suggest, like how to tackle this. And I was thinking about that too, like, if I would have to tell somebody how to tackle it. And honestly, I think it really depends on you, I mean, on the person. And I think once you go in for your first exam and you get your score back, I mean, really, that's what's gonna give you a feedback whether you're on the right track or not. Because if you passed it, you know it working. If you didn't, then obviously you need to, there's some adjustment that needs to be made. But so yeah, passing FAR, I was super nervous. I mean, I was very nervous. But in Becker, they also have those 4-hour tests, or those, end of the program tests. And I sat down on the first one just to do it at home. And I was so nervous because I totally felt like I was sitting there that I had to abandon it. I had to abandon the test after 10 questions because I couldn't remember a thing. And I was like, I don't know. But then I went back and I did it. And I did the second one. And I think, again, I don't know, I just learned to trust Becker now from that perspective, because at the end, when I'm done with all my MCQs and my reviews, the last week, all I do is review, and I do all those tests that Becker has, because I don't do them as they have them, like after a certain module, they have a test. I skip those. I keep them for the very end. So on the last week, I do all the tests that they have in there. And I think they say that if you pass like with 55% or more, you're exam day ready. So I passed, in the 70s. So I was like, okay, if Becker tells me I'm exam day ready, then I'm exam day ready. So I was. So, and I scored much higher on the exam. So, yeah. So I don't know if they make those questions like really hard in Becker or whatnot, but yeah. And yeah, I mean, they're hard. I mean, so first when I did my first like final review, and it was 65, and I was thinking, how the heck do they think I'm exam day ready? I don't pass with 65. And but they said I was ready. So so I'm like, okay. Okay. And then of course I did the other test, and that came back a little better, but still I think it was like low 70s. So if I get low 70s, that's not gonna fly. So yeah. Yeah. And, oh, well, if I don't get into the 90s, then I'm not happy. So it's high 90s, but yeah, high, yeah. So I'm okay with one or two mistakes, but towards the end, I mean, it has to be mistakes that when I look at it, I was like, oh, pff, it wasn't because I didn't know, it was because I messed up because I didn't read carefully, you know? Yeah. Hmm. 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 They're hard. Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're harder. And what was I gonna say? And then towards the end, I also do not just the set of 30s, but I go back individually into each module and do a 20 per module. And so because those 30s by the end, you have so many chapters and you're just getting maybe a question from each, or something. So yeah, towards the end, I go back and I'm like, okay, module one, and then give me, 20 out of that one, and give me 20 and give me two simulation, So then, so my re-reviews, I do a lot of re-reviews. Right. So I do maybe 2 hours in the morning. I do new questions depending on how many is in a module. But if there is 30 plus, then it's gonna take me that 50 minutes just to get through that new question section. And then I take a little break, and then I come back and do a 30 review question. But depending on what you're reviewing, I mean, if you're reviewing a reg, that 30 review question is not going to take you another 50 minutes. I mean, that's going to go much faster. And that's it. So that's all I do in the morning. So it could be an hour and a half instead of a 2 hour. And then during the day, really not much. Afternoon, I start looking at your app. And then in the evening, when I don't have anything else to do. And that's why I like your quiz app, because I'm literally in bed. And just before, like turning off the lights, I start doing the quizzes. And I can spend, like 20 minutes on your quizzes. And, we all know your quizzes are fast. So by the time I spend 20 minutes on it, that's many questions. So that's it for the day. And I know I heard some people that they change it for the weekend. I don't. I only change it before exam. So like a week or maybe a couple of weeks before the exam. Then on the weekend, I sit down more. But other than that, no. And then I mean, I have listened to your audio notes. I'm not saying I listen to all of them, but on certain ones that I need more of a condensed information, like in FAR, I really disliked governmental, and Becker was just so much information. And I was like, yeah. So that's when I took your review notes out, because it was condensed. It totally explained what the heck is going on with this governmental section, and it was just perfect. I didn't need more information about it. I didn't think so anyway. So it was plenty. Yeah, so I take your review notes out when I need something extra, or something like, yeah, really cliff notes. I mean, I don't need, yeah. anyway. So yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. No. And then that's when I would read something. So I look ahead, like what's going to be, let's say, my tomorrow morning's agenda when I look at the MCQs. And so I have a vague idea, what I'm facing tomorrow. So then I either look in your section to give me like an overview, so I'm not really completely out of the ballpark. Or, I mean, Becker also comes with its final review booklet that has some kind of notes in it. That's, again, not too much, but I just try to look at, what it's going to be. And, but I don't do it every evening. It's just, whenever. And then I did it more on reg because I felt like that was a lot of information. And I have read the regs book because I did sit down in the evening. I read the chapter just so I know what I'm looking at in the next morning. But honestly, I mean, it's not like I retained much of the information. It was still, doing the MCQs the first time around, it's still coming back not so great. But at least I know, I'm dealing with, I don't know, C corps rather than something else. So, yeah. Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, honestly, this is the best way to study for this exam. I don't even know where I would be if I would still be. Probably I would still be doing FAR somewhere halfway, if anywhere. Yeah. Mhm. Well, I didn't study all night, but I would just listen to that video, and then when the MCQs were not good, then I would go back and sit down, and I would, so see, I would skip because I don't have, I mean, I'm tired in the evening, so okay, I'll look at it over the weekend when I have time. So then I would sit down with the book, sit down with the video at the same time, highlighting or whatever they're saying, to underline, to put the notes on the side. And I understand to a certain degree that when you write things down, it tend to stick more. By writing them once will not going to stick more. So I think you have to write down certain things multiple times. And that's where the flashcards are going to come in when we start talking about it. But yeah, you have to write it down multiple times. Just because I highlighted in Becker and put a little whatever note next to it, it is not going to be in my head, you know. So, so yeah, yeah, no, yeah, yes. I did, and that was something very new for me because I was not a flashcard person, but I heard you say to do flashcards. So when I heard you say it first, I thought, I don't need that. Well, I realized I did need it. So I had like this many for, I think, for FAR. And some of them I didn't need it all the time because once I wrote it down a few times, it will stick. So so after a while, I realized that out of that big flashcards, there were multiples because sometimes I wrote it down multiple times. So eventually, there were just a few that really I had to look at it more because there are going to be, and that was hard for me to imagine too, because you mentioned that in your video, I think, that there are going to be sections that just not want to go into your head. And I didn't realize that that actually could happen. And it's very frustrating when you look at it, like, I don't know how many times, and it's like, just not, doesn't want to get in there. And So those are the flashcards that I really looked at the last time, and I took them with me, before the exam, and just glanced on them one last time, in the car before I actually went in, just so, because I realized that, yeah, those are need to be, I need to concentrate on them. And again, whether you get a question on it or not, I don't even think I got a question on that section, but still, just the fact that it just doesn't want to get into your head, it's frustrating enough, at least to me, that I need to, I need to review that. Yeah. No, probably the first part. So yeah, no, I would make multiple of them, and keep making them. And here and there, I would pick them up. But really, again, it comes down to that last 2 weeks. I mean, the last 2 weeks is it's crunch time. So that's when reviews, whether that's the MCQs, the simulation, or Becker test, or the flashcards, that's when everything comes into play. But not before. I mean, I think before, I take the whole thing pretty relaxed, just plugging along, doing my thing. But yeah, so 2 weeks before the exam, when it's like, okay, now it's really real. I'm gonna have to go in and sit. So that's when I really sit down and look at these things. And yeah. Well, when you look at the FAR book, you know, and if I really thought I have to know every single thing in that book. And looking at it, and honestly, just by doing the MCQs, I might actually know what's in that book, like really do. But I would have done the old way. I would have rewatched the guy's videos. I would have read the chapter, and I would have gone back to redo the MCQs. And after because the MCQs, the first five are pretty easy. So those are like the warm up ones. I always look at them that way. But after the fifth or the 10th ones, that's when they're going to start you know, like some curveballs coming at you. It's like, what? And then when you get to that question, it's like, oh, I guess I didn't pay attention on this chapter. So then you go back, you're probably not even going to do the rest of the questions because you get stuck on that 10th one. So then you're going to go back to the video, listen to that section, like where you didn't catch that little nuance that you should have, caught, and open up the book again, highlight it again, put another star next to it and then you go and do that one question, that 10th one, and then you get to the 11th one, and it's going to be a little bit different. Not much, but it's enough that you're not going to know. So then you do the same thing. So by the time you finish with 30 questions, it's going to take like a week or two, just, doing that. Yeah. Right. Mhm. And honestly, I mean, even on Becker, what I do most of the time is, I go to the MCQs, and when you do, and you don't know it because most likely you won't, there is that see lecture button, and I just click on that, and it takes you right to that particular section. So I kind of read it, what it says, etc. And based on what I just read, I try to answer the question. And honestly, even sometimes reading that part is not gonna get me to the right question. or the right answer. And then I read, on the bottom, as you said it in your videos too, to read, why that is a good answer and why the others are not good. But I find that see lecture button extremely helpful. And because instead of going through the whole book, it just focuses you into that one particular area where, you should be looking at the answer. I think that's great. Right. Yeah. Yeah. And even for calculations, it's great because when you click on that see lecture, if you scroll down a little bit and if it's calculation related, they're going to have an example. So I look at that example and I try to understand that particular example, like how they calculated it out. And then I go back to my own question and calculate it out according to that example. So, and I think, again, I think you mentioned it in your videos as well, but I think it's extremely important to understand what you're doing. So even though you are answering the question, or as as we all know, after a while, you're gonna be remembering the answer. But it's important to understand what you're doing and why you're doing what you're doing. And I mean, even in Becker, when I look at some of the calculation and it doesn't make sense to me, it's not because I don't know the calculation, it's because I would calculate it differently. So then once I realize what they're doing, then I try to calculate it the way I would do it. And it gets me to the same result. I mean, I can't tell you example right now, but there are little nuances, that makes more sense to your brain rather than how they did it in the book. So instead of just copying the book, try to, like interpret it to your own thinking and then do it that way, you know, if that makes sense. Mhm. No, right. Hmm. Yeah, 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 I agree. And yeah, just you just have to find your own method, but if you don't do enough of them, then you're not gonna obviously get there. Or if you, I don't know, I guess don't take the time to sit down and kind of ponder, over a question like why this is the way it is, then you can miss some of these things. But I think understanding what's going on, like right now I have issues, I've had issues with and far too with the foreign exchange stuff, and but here it is in BEC again. It's like, oh God, I thought it was over. So so those are the flashcards I have, and I was, again, I'm trying to make it like click in my brain. So I'm looking at it in every different angle. I didn't get one question on FAR regarding foreign exchange rates. I don't know if I will in here or not, but at the same time, I don't know, I just want to get it to the point where they can't trip me, because that's what they're going to try to do. It's easy. It almost feels like your brain has to jump some hoops over it to figure out, which way I'm converting or what the heck is going on. But I think I don't know. So yeah, so I'm working on that one right now to get it all like smoothed out. Yeah, and I think that's why it's always difficult. I'm kind of looking forward to starting a new like right now with BECs. I was so glad to be done with reg, or I'm starting something new. It's kind of exciting, but when I actually start on it in the very beginning, it does not go well. It's just dragging because I don't know, I have a hard time starting. But once I'm into that, like maybe 3 weeks, it starts going much smoother and everything is just like, it's just better. But in the beginning, it's always a drag. Yeah. Right. No. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. That's what it is. Yeah. And it just takes a push, an extra push in that first couple of weeks to come out of it because everything says that, you don't have to wake up in the morning. It's really not that important. So, yeah, but and I gave myself on that a little bit of leeway, like in this first 2 weeks. So instead of like really waking up super early, that I will be doing, like a few weeks before exam, I don't. I give myself to sleep in like till 5:30. And then gradually I'm gonna like, okay, now it's gonna be 5:15, and then earlier and earlier. But I don't also beat myself up, if I didn't get to where I imagined I would get to, or whatever. I think, well, but also I think it all depends on your personality. So if you know that you're going to get it done regardless, then I think it's fine. But if you know yourself that you're just gonna gradually keep going down, if you're not hard on yourself, then maybe you shouldn't do that. But I know I'm gonna get it done. So whenever in this first few weeks, I'm just like, I'm a little bit lenient with myself. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Well, so by that time, as I said, I'm only re-reviewing, and I have to. So it all depends how well I am doing on these re-review ones. But so far, like with the past two exams, I'm scoring pretty well. Not on the Sims though. So if anybody is listening to this one, and I think others mentioned it too, the Sims are different. So even before a couple of weeks before the exam, the Sims are not exactly where I would like them to be ideally. I click on the answer just to see answer. I also, if there are like 8 attachments in there and half a page of writing, I'm gonna skip that. I don't have time for that. And so far, it did not backfire on me. Because there are easier Sims that have the same knowledge that you're gonna get out of it without like spending an hour on just looking at the attachment and trying to see what's going on. I might submit that just to see some answers, to what's going on, like the numbers or the answers, but I am not gonna attempt to do something like that. So the Sims are hit and miss, but at least you see them. At least you see the answers. At least you see the questions as well. So, so far on FAR and Reg, I was pleasantly surprised with the Sims. I don't know if I just got lucky or I just practiced them enough that it didn't, I don't know, it wasn't too bad, to be honest. So those are fine. And of course, I do these tests. So like on the Becker ones, it says it's like simulated as the same as your test would be on exam day. So at that time, I'm calculating 4 hours and I'm willing to do the 4 hours if needed. I didn't need the 4 hours for the Becker exams. So if I'm done earlier, then I'm done. That's it. But I segregate that 4 hours during the weekend that I would do those tests. And yeah, so that's why it's longer. Yeah. Right. And that's what I noticed on the Sims that I was doing, that, it looked like this huge page, but honestly, there were 3 numbers or 3 answers that they needed. And it didn't take that long. So ultimately, they're not, well, knock on wood, which I don't have around. I mean, I do on the wall, but so far, so good. So far so good. So I don't know what BEC or audit will have, but FAR and Reg were okay. Yeah, hopefully. I mean, oh, yeah, it's long. it it is, and it's not even just that, but just to stay committed. You know, I mean, I think you kind of mentioned that on in your 1 hour video as well, how to stay committed, because after one or two, that initial, at least with me, I feel like that initial like go getting or excitement and being nervous at the same time, it's done. Because I feel like, okay, I've done 2, I can actually, well, most likely I can do this. So I don't have that, whatever you call it, anymore. It's more like, as you say, it's a grind. I'm like, okay, I have to get it done. So I think that's why it's getting a little bit more difficult because of that. It's just like, can we get it over with? Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. No. Yep. Right. Well, I think first and foremost is really listen to what you have to say in that 1 hour video, because even though I think, your app is great and I love it, but I think really the key to the success, you give it away in your 1 hour video. So 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 listen to you and get up in the morning and do the MCQs, and just keep doing the MCQs and read them, understand them, and get good at them. And then after that, I think really if you have extra time, obviously do the sims, get familiar with it. But I think it's just review and review and review, and understand what you're doing. I think that's the key. But you say all of that in your hour-long video, and I think that's what it is. That's the key to success. Yeah, yeah, I was thinking about that too. So when like, because when I first saw your ad, and I really thought, this is gonna be a scam. Somebody's gonna try to take my money, and then obviously I paid some money because I got your course, but at the same time, it wasn't a big deal, because by the time you're done, you already invested into some kind of review course. Really, yours, it's not that big of a difference. So if it helps, it's a huge help. If it doesn't, then it's not as much as that you can, it's like, okay, so I probably wasted more money somewhere else along, in my life. But and I also thought about, what you gave away in your 1 hour video, because honestly, to me, that was the biggest help. So, and you just tell it to everybody. So yeah. 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 Hmm. It's way different. Yeah. 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 Yeah, I understand. Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's thank you. Thanks. Okay. Yeah, I will. Honestly, I put audit last because I have zero experience with audit. So that's the one I'm most concerned with, because A, I don't have experience. B, I don't think there are any calculations, which I like calculations better. So that's so we'll see. But yeah, should be fine. Hmm. Hmm. Right. Okay. Memorizing. Okay. 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 I'll let you know for sure. Yeah.
So that was the interview with Viktoria. Like I said in the beginning, I'm sure you found that very helpful and motivational and also very informative because we talked through a lot of the specific strategies and kind of the idea or the rationale behind the strategies. So if you did find this episode helpful, please take a second and share it with someone you know who's also working on their CPA exams, because these interviews collectively are the most helpful free resource available anywhere for helping people figure out how to study effectively and efficiently. And of course, your CPA exams are either passed or failed based on your daily study process and how effective it is. It's very possible to study for months, and if what you're doing each day just isn't really connecting the dots and isn't effective as far as getting you ready for that test day context, then it's possible to study for months and still go in there and fail over and over. Also, if you're on YouTube, please take a second to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and then leave a comment about one takeaway you got from the video from Viktoria's interview. So thanks for watching or listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.